What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Outwired. Excited to be here with you. Scott, welcome back. We're still missing our esteemed colleague, Greg, although he's getting less esteemed by the week. I think maybe I built him too good of a website. That's the only thing that I can think of, is he's
you
busy.
might need to pull back on some of that stuff, because
I might just I think if he's just not, like, we should just take his website offline. Like right now, we should just take him offline and see if he shows up.
see how
Like,
long
what
it
happened?
takes him.
Like, I was getting all this business and now I have no business, and then force him to show up and talk to us, right?
Right.
No, we're super happy for Greg. He's got a ton of business, so we're excited for that. Hopefully he'll be back on the show. If not, we'll just replace him with somebody less smart. But anyway, got a good, interesting episode for you guys today. Scott and I are going to talk about some interesting stuff. So Scott and I were having a conversation. You tell me if you remember this differently, Scott, because you probably do, because I don't have a good memory. We were talking last week about, like, what do we want to do this week? What do we want to talk about on the show? We've been talking about the campground of the future, all that kind of jazz. And we kind of stumbled across this idea of, like, there, I think, are an opportunity for campgrounds to reach outside their normal pool of people who they would go after, which is typically RVers or tent campers, or people who are already looking for a glamping or cabin rental experience, right? To reach into this population of people who are either in a city or I frequently bring up Earl with Black Folks Camp 2 as one example of his organization. His business does a great job of getting Black folks interested in the outdoor experience who had never been exposed to it before, uncertain about it, hesitant about going in the outdoors, never were taught about it, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also, like, demographics from left, right, up, down, right? Asian, Native American, white, men, women, all so many people in so many different places, right? Who have just never been raised to learn how to understand the value of camping or the benefits it can bring, or being outside near a river, or pitching a tent, and it's not that camping is for everybody, but there is a very large portion, I think, of the United States, Canadian worldwide population who, if they were exposed to the benefits of the outdoors, would fit into one of those segments. Either maybe I'm a tent camper casually, maybe I eventually want to buy an RV, maybe I am willing to go to a cabin rental or a glamping resort in lieu of one or two of my typical hotel stays or vacations every year. But they don't know what you offer. They're uncertain. They think it's roughing it. They're not sure if there's a bathroom there. They have no idea how to navigate this difference. It's never even crossed their mind. And so we're going to talk today, I think, about reaching into some of those, to those people, or reaching into some of the cities and saying, well, let's think about this differently, because it's not just about blasting Facebook ads at you. That's one tactic, but it's not the best one. It's about telling a story for the people who don't know the story, right? Don't know the benefits of the outdoors, who were not raised even on things like hunting or fishing or biking through the woods, or all those things that just have that built-in appreciation that gets people closer to being willing to try camping. There are hundreds of millions of people who just have no clue. And that doesn't mean that we're a perfect fit for everybody, but, like, I think, is that what we talked about, Scott? That sum it up good enough? And so we're going to talk about a little bit about that. We have some ideas for you, some things we ran through ChatGPT, some things that came out of our own head. Like, ChatGPT obviously has way more cool ideas than we do, but once in a while we have our moments, right, Scott? We have a couple unique ideas for you. Scott's going to bring some data to the table. We're going to talk about the number of people who would like to go camping who don't have cars or vehicles, some other really good insights that Scott has and is going to bring to the table. He's done some prep and research, way more than I am. And then we're going to talk about, depending on where this goes and where this kind of fits into the whole matrix of everything, we're going to talk about a little bit and maybe we'll start with this, a little bit of the innovations in AI, just a couple cool videos that have come out in the last few weeks. Not a long discussion, but just to catch you guys up as we always do on the show. It's focused on AI tech, robotics, things like that. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about, if we have time, and if not, we'll do this next week, about how I think, and this is Brian, marketing CEO, works for 500 campgrounds and RV parks. I think marketing's dead or dying. I think you're still going to need visibility, but I think what we consider marketing today has long been hanging by a thread. And I think AI is the ultimate game changer, to where we are finally going to get rid of, and I'm just going to call it like it is, the bullshit, the manipulation tactics of marketing to convince people to purchase or stay or go somewhere that they don't need to go. Everybody needs a vacation. Everybody needs to get outside. All the hell, right? So like they need what you're offering still. And so there will be a need for visibility, to tell your story, to bring your brand in front of them. But the manipulation of that is something that I think is just not only not going to be necessary, but going to be impossible in an era of good luck tricking the AI agent the way you can manipulate the human psychosis or psyche. Sorry. So, with all that being said, what came across your desk this week, Scott?
Smoke came across my desk. We've
Smoke?
from Canada, you guys are blowing smoke.
Not for me. That's the East Coast, man.
Yeah, we've had air quality warnings quite a bit the last couple of weeks, and I bring up these things that are random because I think about them, like, they're recommending even people who are healthy not to go outside. It's been pretty bad, several days in a row. So a lot of people, and we talk about how things affect people. This affects people going out camping. You're going to have a little bit more of a limited group of folks who are going to be doing outdoor recreation, strenuous activities, because again, they're recommending that most people to avoid strenuous activity, not just people who have issues. So it's one of those things that we've been dealing with the last couple of years. This year, for us here in Maine, for whatever reason, wherever the locations of the fires are, it's kept us it's kept things a little quiet around here. And we've noticed that just in our area, which is a tourist area for a big outdoor rec area, it's been pretty slow.
I thought you guys wanted more things crossing the border from Canada. I thought that was the ask from the States.
Well, we asked, and then you sent
your smoke. We sent you smoke. It's crossing the border every day.
It's coming here in droves. So
yes.
Yeah, that's who we're getting. But
maybe you should be more specific with your asks.
When people say don't blow smoke, I mean, this is where we're getting. But it's I think I bring this up too because we ask questions like this in our work quite often, like what impacts people and their behaviors, like what prevents them from camping more often. And these types of events will keep people away. They will keep people away. So
in what kind of numbers? Because we've talked before about, like, people don't want to camp during the rain, and obviously if there's a hurricane forecast in Texas, then you're going to get a number of cancellations depending on where it goes. And I mean, just the rain from a hurricane alone, right? Even if it's not a dead-on hit. But how do things like wildfire smoke that could blow in one day and blow out the afternoon?
What you have to do is people will change the dates of their trips if they think if it's only for a day, it won't necessarily spike their plans. But it's if it's more than that, they'll the most common, and I would say you're gonna find maybe like 20 to 30% of people will alter their plans due to something like this. Maybe for smoke in particular, it's not that high. It's probably only around 5 to 10%. But for weather in general, severe weather and adverse conditions, it's 20 to 30% typically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how severe the smoke is. Like, I mean, I think like we've had that like where it blows into Calgary with smoke once in a while. The wildfires over here have been here, but they haven't been as bad in our area of Western Canada as they have been in
Mhm.
the last few years. And I think like in some instances, I feel like I'm more sensitive to the wildfire smoke than many people because I don't know, I'm obsessed with my air quality. I have air purifiers throughout my house, right? And so
Mhm.
maybe that just makes me a little bit more able to detect and be irritated by the typical pollutants that would be outside. And so like whereas like a level, I don't know, whatever the levels are, right? Like I have one of those air quality meters that have like the IQ airs or whatever
Mhm.
that have the purple and the red, and so I don't know the colors, but like if it's a if it's a lower level of you can smell it in the air, but it's not like really causing breathing issues, like most people I think are probably okay with that. It's just irritating. And then like
Mhm.
it goes up and that impacts the number of cancellations, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you get some of that. People pay attention to the weather if their activity is like really dependent on having to like people will still camp in the rain. It depends on what they're doing. Um, so overall, it's like um, the when you look at overall about I don't know about 18%. I'm looking at some better numbers here. 18% of people will cancel or change plans because of weather. Um, and within that subgroup, it's about 10% will mention smoke from fires and stuff. Most often it's rain and thunderstorms and other types of more severe weather that creates that. But again, most common thing for them to do is they'll change the dates of their trip.
It's so hard though too with smoke, right? Well, it's hard with the forecast rain too, but smoke could just like we were talking, like I said, it could blow in one morning and out the next. Depending on like obviously if it's really close to the city, that's a different case in point. But if it's blowing over mountains or something like that, like it can switch pretty quick. And so it's hard to kind of even forecast like, well, I want to come in tomorrow instead of today, or I want to push to next weekend, but I don't know if the fire is going to be out or like so there's all kinds of variables there. I think maybe that also contributes to the maybe I should just keep the trip because it
Hmm.
could like almost like the devil, right?
Right, right.
So
I mean, most people are sitting around the campfire breathing in smoke anyway. So
yeah, well, if you're building a good fire, Scott, should we talk about fire etiquette and how to build a good campfire without a bunch of smoke, or should we save that for a different
we
episode?
can save that for a different day.
Okay. Yeah, if you're building a good fire, you're not breathing in smoke. A lot of it, anyway. All right, so let's talk. Let's do a little bit about like what came across my desk is always almost going to be the AI marketing, SEO kind of robotic stuff because that's what I always kind of focus on. So let's talk a little bit about that today. Jessica, I have a couple of videos over there that are queued up that you can, well, that are opened in tabs that you can share the screen and play. Let's do one that's camping related. Scott, you're gonna like this. Uh, I think that this may encourage me to want to go on longer hikes and maybe even camp in the wilderness a little bit more. You talked about, remember we talked about, we had that conversation. I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. We were talking about getting drones that would deliver pizza by the waterfall. And you were
Yep.
like, I don't think I would do that. And I said, I think I might. I think there's going to be this really interesting line of like, maybe a lot of people are going to change their minds about tech. Check this cool little Chinese robot out. All right, what do we think, Scott? Would you take one of those hiking with you?
We are on the cusp.
Excuse me. No, I wouldn't personally.
Come on, man, I could just haul your bag.
No, if
What are you
I
doing?
can't hold my own bag, I'm not going.
Jessica's unsure of how to operate the show today. I think she needs a little bit of assistance over there. Sorry, go ahead.
But I could see that being of use to people who maybe physically.
That's me.
know,
I can't physically do it. Look
What
at
do
how
you-
weak I am.
What are you doing? Having the robot carry your Yeti cooler filled with beer and ice?
Maybe. Like honestly, like I mean, like so my point is right, I can carry a big pack into the wilderness. Like I can go for 12, 20K if I wanted to, but also like I could have it like I could bring a few more things with me that would make my stay a little bit cozier if I didn't have to do that kind of, I don't know, space optimization with a backpack, right? Like why not?
To me, I'm more of a purist when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's like you do the experience because you want to get away from that kind of stuff. That
Well,
part
sure,
of the
but you can just
challenge
power the thing down.
is to be self-sufficient. Being self-sufficient. That's it.
Define self-sufficient, right? Like I hear your argument, but like me purchasing a robot and training it and bringing it along with me, that's self-sufficiency.
You're using a mechanized tool.
I mean, like, are you starting a fire with a stick, like with friction, or are you using a flint and steel? Is still a mechanized tool.
I think there's a big difference between a robot carrying your cooler with beer and ice and how you start a fire.
That's true. Like to be clear, now I'm not talking about having it carry a cooler with beer and ice. One,
No, but
I'm not like interested in bringing that into the woods.
it
But
would. I guess for me, it's like that. That would be. It's not for me personally, but it has could have situational use.
Yeah.
For example, a search and rescue. I think something like that would be very valuable in search and rescue.
Yes.
And just helping people out. Like if you could, it could be carrying like water bottles and food or whatever for people who are struggling.
I thought you were supposed to be self-sufficient and forage for mushrooms, Scott. Make up your mind. You either need food or you don't need food, Scott.
What I'm saying is, like, for example, I'm really busy hiking trails where there's a bunch of people who are ill prepared. There's a lot of situations, and here in New England, it happens quite a bit where we just had an incident on Mount Katahdin earlier this year where 2 people died, unfortunately, on the trail, and it was because they're not sure what happened, but they got off trail, got disoriented, and then the rangers couldn't get there because of the severe weather conditions. So in that situation, sending something like that up to help with assistance,
to locate, to have water, to have food until you can be evacuated,
so stuff like that. And again, maybe in busier areas where you have people who might be less experienced, they might need that help. I was thinking of because I've been seeing a lot of reports on Everest recently that those could I wonder if those will replace Sherpas eventually. At least getting to base camp.
I don't know, maybe. Like, I mean, them Sherpas are pretty tough.
They are tough.
Build a pretty good robot to replace a Sherpa, right? Like the entrepreneur in my brain is like, I want to build one of those robot dogs with like a vending machine on its back and send it to like middle of a hiking trail where people are like, oh, I just really wish like I had a beer or a Pepsi or whatever else, right?
It'd be like the person driving around on the golf cart in the golf course selling beer.
Yeah, but then you could charge just ballpark prices for it, right? Like $11 for a Pepsi.
Right, exactly.
You want the Pepsi or not? Like do you want it? Are you sure? Right. What are your other options? There's no McDonald's around the corner. I mean, there might be. You could keep trying, but I don't know. Yeah, like I mean, I think there's business models out of that, but yeah, I think there are use cases for it. Like I don't know. Like I agree to a certain extent and see your perspective for sure on the self-sufficiency, but I think that there's even like around a campground, forget about hiking, but like around a campground is somebody who could haul things back and forth for you that you were using to, I don't know, like put new tiles in at your pool or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's all kinds of use cases for that thing. It was holding, what was it, 30 kg?
Mm-hmm.
It was in it
So it's
when
a
11.
substantial load.
Yeah. So I don't know how much it is in pounds. That's what you're there for. You got to do the calculations, Jessica. She asked me like she's trying to tell me that I didn't hire her for math now, Scott. So I don't know. Like we're in Canada, we use kg anyway. We should just know where that is. But like, yeah, I mean, I think there's tons of use cases for that if you explore something like that. And I don't think they're that expensive. They can't be. Like, I mean, they have a humanoid robot. That same company has a humanoid robot that you can buy in China for I think $15,000 US.
Okay.
Can't be that expensive for one of those dogs. You wouldn't imagine, right?
Right.
I actually want one. Like, I want to buy one and bring it with me to the glamping show. It probably won't be here on time though. It'll probably get caught up in red tape, and then it'll be by the time it gets here, it'll be tariffed like 300%. So, anyway, so what else do I have over there, Jessica, video wise? Okay, dynamic worlds. You want to talk about this, Scott? So you remember? I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show. We did. Yeah, we did. We talked about. Remember how we talked about the New York City campers, and we were talking about how they might have an opportunity to experience camping through VR, and you could build a model of your campground in VR, and they could kind of explore it and see,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And there was a lot of speculation at that point about how that's going to work and how far that technology is off, and how obviously long it's going to take people to adopt that. Here's something that Google DeepMind released called Genie 3. Check this out.
What you're seeing are not games or videos. They're worlds. Each one of these is an interactive environment generated by Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. With Genie 3, you can use natural language to generate a variety of worlds and explore them interactively, all with a single text prompt. Let's see what it's like to spend some time in a world. Genie 3 has real-time interactivity, meaning that the environment reacts to your movements and actions. You're not walking through a pre-built simulation. Everything you see here is being generated live as you explore it. And Genie 3 has world memory. That's why environments like this one stay consistent. World memory even carries over into your actions. For example, when I'm painting on this wall, my actions persist. I can look away and generate other parts of the world. But when I look back, the actions I took are still there. And Genie 3 enables promptable events, so you can add new events into your world on the fly. Something like another person, or transportation, or even something totally unexpected. You can use Genie to explore real-world physics and movement, and all kinds of unique environments. You can generate worlds with distinct geographies, historical settings, fictional environments, and even other characters. We're excited to see how Genie 3 can be used for next-generation gaming and entertainment. And that's just the beginning. Worlds can help with embodied research, training robotic agents before working in the real world, or simulating dangerous scenarios for disaster preparedness and emergency training. World models can open new pathways for learning, agriculture, manufacturing, and more. We're excited to see how Genie 3's world simulation can benefit research around the world.
All right, so what's your initial reaction to this before I give mine?
Excuse me. With this one, I see a lot of very practical applications. I guess that's where my head keeps going today for whatever reason. Maybe that's why I should say.
No, that's fine. There are.
But because I like that, like the scenario, because it does build upon the idea of exposing people to, like, say, an outdoor adventure. Like, here it is. You've never experienced this. This is what it would be like to be more immersed in it, and a way to entice them to actually go out and have one, to go out in the outdoors, and it may let them help judge what they actually want to do. Could be rock climbing. It could be windsurfing, or those wingsuits. Those are really cool, by the way. So a person could actually have that kind of experience and then decide, do I want this? Do I want to try this? Is it enticing enough, or does it scare the shit out of you? You know, kind of thing. And if you can make it real world, which it kind of sounds like they can, I think it has a ton of applications.
Yeah, I mean they can't like I mean they can for sure make it appear like a real world. This is Genie 3. Genie 2 was before this. I think it came out last year. Like there was a video I watched of a side-by-side comparison. Like the quality is night and day. And I think the Genie 2 could only last like 30 seconds. This can generate minutes and minutes already of stuff. And I say this again and again, like the only limitation on making this, giving you like Google VO3 can generate 8 seconds of video. The only limitation on you having the ability to create your own feature film or your own video game or your own training simulation or your own whatever that's hours, days long is computer power, GPUs. We can't make them fast enough. That is the only limitation of AI in these use cases right now. And everybody thinks that it's going to just, like, we're waiting on these model improvements, and you think like we are a little bit, but it's already smarter than me and Scott and you, and it's already there. It's already smarter than the smartest mathematician. It's already more empathetic than the most empathetic doctor. Maybe not the most empathetic doctor, but most doctors. But I'm trying to picture in my head now what the most empathetic doctor is. And what comes into my head is, did you ever see that Bedazzled movie, Scott?
No.
It's with Brendan Fraser and can't remember the British woman's name.
Oh no! Yes, I did. I did.
Do you remember him crying on the beach?
Was it Elizabeth Hurley?
Elizabeth Hurley, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember him crying on the beach in that scenario, in that scene?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I picture. Like when I think of the most empathetic doctor, that's the vision that came into my head of like the guy just sobbing and crying and being so overly emotional. But I bet ChatGPT might be able to do that better. I don't know, or more coherently. But like this stuff's already here, guys. Like and as they continue, like there's a reason NVIDIA is a $4 trillion company. There's a reason that in probably 5 years, it's going to be a $6 trillion or an $8 trillion company. Like it's just a manufacturing bottleneck. And then you're going to have the opportunity to do all of this stuff. And I don't know what this world looks like or what we'll be able to do with it. But I can very much imagine some kind of crazy future advertising model where you can say, like, anytime somebody prompts to stay a night and they're inside a certain environment that's in nature, right? Whether it's a out in the forest or whatever else, and they're just like a campfire or something like that, that it instantly puts down a sponsored, I don't know, North Face tent or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it puts down a glamping tent from a company, or it builds a scenario where like the campground that it builds around them is labeled the brand name of your business. If the user is in a specific radius, like the amount of cool advertising and opportunities that's going to open up in the future, I think is going to be mind blowing. And we'll talk about marketing later, because I want to make sure we get to the core crux of our stuff. But like that, and that's just marketing. Like you were talking about the practical use cases of training, or like we were talking about in Fireside Chats earlier, the tragic floods and the emergency preparedness plan. Like put a simulation on your people, and like all you have to do, you map your park, 3D map your park, and then have them go through the simulation of here's all the different ways it could flood. Forget about like on paper. Let's actually have the AI simulate the literal 1,200 different ways that a flood could travel through your park and how high it would be and where, and have them react to it. And then they'll know exactly what to do. And maybe that saves 10 lives. Maybe it saves 1 life. Maybe it saves 100 lives. Right? Like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when I saw that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, that's the perfect case use.
So like, I mean, just the ability for you guys to embrace this technology, to use this to your advantage. I feel like I have these arguments with people every week, not arguments, debates, maybe conversations. And the mindset out there is still that this is just years away. And it is not. It is here right now. And the only thing holding it back is compute. Same thing with robotics. In like 2 years, the only thing holding robots back from doing literally every job on the planet will be how fast they can come off an assembly line. And I'm not cheering on that future. Like in some ways I am, because I think we'll get past the point where like we need to trade our time for labor, and I think that's going to be great for humanity. But like I'm not cheering on the robots replacing humans, but it's going to happen. So I just think that the more we prepare and the more we have these conversations about this kind of stuff, the better we can use it to our advantage, as in your case, a campground owner, in my case, marketer, AI guy, in Scott's case, consulting, and all the different use cases that you can imagine at your property. I think just it opens the door for so many things that just were never possible before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Those are the two things that came across my desk. I took more time than I probably should. So, all right, let's dive into this stuff. Do you want to start with your data, or do you want to start with some of the ideas that we came up with the call earlier, or less?
Let's start with you know what? Let me talk about a little bit of the data first, because I think it's a nice intro. If I was going to go the other way on it, but I feel like this might be a good way to just introduce the topic a little bit here. So, we talked, a lot about, this whole idea of, tapping into some of these other markets, and the idea of, and last week, you talked about the idea of, like people who fly and getting them to a campground. Like what's there's a market for that. But also, the idea of, and to build on that, the people that just don't have transportation. And I said this earlier, as the teaser for this show, was that 10% of people who don't camp mention that they don't have transportation.
And that's a whole different, like, I want to unpack that for a second, right?
Sure.
Because that's so many different people. And I think one of the things that I think I've learned as I've watched and explored and seen how people have reacted, and I'm not going to go back to AI, but like as I've seen how people have been willing to embrace it, understand what I'm talking about, can understand the technical terms or can't understand the technical terms. One of the things I think I've stepped back and got perspective on is like, sometimes I think I know something, you think you know something from a data perspective, I think I know something from a marketing perspective. We think we're explaining it correctly, but we're not really diving into it in a way that perhaps some of our audience or all of our audience can consume or understand. So when you talk about 10% of people who would go camping but don't own a vehicle, there's a couple different groups that are contained within that, right? There are the people like we've talked about in New York City who by choice do not own a car because they don't need one in New York City, and thus in some ways it limits their ability to go camping because they can't get 2-3 hours out of the city without bumming a ride with a friend or figuring out transportation or paying $500 for an Uber ride or whatever, right? There are also the people who can't afford a car. Who else is there in that group?
It's affordability. It's people who don't want to have a vehicle. They're just not into it. And then there's the people who may have their access to transportation may be inadequate. They could have physical issues that the transportation can't get them to where they want to go. But in terms of just kind of looking at this, this group, it really is it's unrelated to income. I can tell you that. I just looked it up.
Okay.
The group most likely to say that they have transportation issues is the kind of middle income, right around $75,000 a year. And this is people that mention it as a barrier. And this is kind of the intro to this topic because it does kind of get to just I'll even back up a little bit. I'll back way up. Before I started doing a lot of research within the industry, the person who did the research, one of his screening criteria for any of the work he did on the incidents of camping and especially RVing was, do they own a car?
Okay.
So the industry itself, that was the pool that they always measured, was just people who owned a vehicle.
Because we assumed that, and maybe rightfully so, that like you can't get to a campground if you don't own a car.
Right. Not considering that people can have access to transportation who don't own a car. They can borrow, parents, whatever. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack.
I don't own a car, to be clear. I don't have a need for one. My girlfriend has one.
Right. I mean, exactly. See, that's a great situation. That's why we don't do that anymore. That's why this question is framed as transportation is a barrier to them actually camping. So, that's kind of the backdrop to all this, that it's a sizable group of people. I mean, when you start applying that to real population numbers, it's pretty big. It's one of those things where, okay, you start with that as step one, but then we also ask people, would you go camping if you did have access to adequate transportation? Or would you do like no car camping? Like I'm going to arrive, I don't have transportation, I don't want to worry about it. And this includes people who have vehicles too. And we can split that apart. But this does include people who have vehicles, but would you still do this? And that percentage is 52% would do it. They have an interest in doing that type of trip. Because you know why? People think vehicles are a pain. They get there, you kind of leave the driving to us, as they say.
Yeah.
So what you have is a group of people. There's a large group of people out there who see this as something that they would be attracted to, that they're interested in, and it may be a way to draw some of these folks in. Because I'll bring in the whole idea of the urban resident. And among the urban residents that were surveyed, the percentage is it's 72% would be interested in this type of. And that includes a lot of people who have vehicles. That's just people, they live in the city, they want to get out, they want someone else to transport them to a campground. So when I see a percentage that high, I know, for example, that not everyone would do it.
Of course not, right?
But if you split it in half, even
even with 35%, 36%.
Yeah, it's still a huge percentage of people. That's a lot when you start applying that real numbers to that. So
this is where my head goes, right? And you know me, I'm crazy. I'm the tech forward future guy, but like my head goes to like, why, if you're a campground within a 2-hour radius of a major city, which almost all of them are, almost 80%, right? Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Within 2 hours of a population center that's greater than 100,000 people, probably, at least in the United States. To me, the day that flying cars are approved, or shortly after, why do you not purchase 2 of these as a capital expense at your campground, which will probably be a write-off under Trump's new tax rules instantly, and then literally say you book a campsite with us and we will come pick you up from the city. It's part of your package. We just, flying car takes off, goes, picks you up, brings you out to the campground, drops you off for the weekend. It's included. Like, obviously you increase your rate as a result to cover the cost of the flying car. And I don't know if it won't be gas, right? Electricity, whatever. Why that thing, I bet you in 10 years, I'll call it 10 years, is not commonplace, but I bet you at least 10% of campgrounds who are forward thinking in 10 years have that or some kind of similar service to that. What do you think? Is that stretching it?
I don't know if that's a stretch, because it's such a huge opportunity. And if it's there, if the technology is there, it's just going to take that first person, that first case study to go out and do it. And then you'll see.
I mean, even if these things are autonomous, it's even crazier. Like, because it just knows, like, you tell us what time, just like in a Marriott app, when you say when you want to arrive, here's when I want to be picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes off from a campground. It knows it just goes and brings them there. I mean, it's just, anyway, continue.
So I guess just kind of building on that theme a little bit. Excuse me. And just so people understand, younger people, and I'm sure most people would already know this, but younger people are much more likely to want this type of service. It's it's a straight trend line by age in terms of their interest in having transportation to a campground. So again, you have the population that's growing. Now is the time to kind of grab them. We know that Gen Z, for example, is a group that is much less likely to have their own transportation as it is. But they're also not getting out as often. This might be a great opportunity with that group because, again, they're much more amenable to it. They don't want the hassle of cars. They don't want that.
When you say that, though, they don't want the hassle of cars. It is some of that. Is there data on, like, just like we have data on it's really hard to afford a house, or much harder today than it was 30 years ago to afford a house? Is that a part of it? Like, it's just almost too much of a budget? Because I was watching, what is the percentage of most Americans' income? Like 50% or 40% of their income goes to just their housing now?
Yeah. It's
so
huge.
Where's the room for the car and everything else?
Exactly. And especially now, it's like the cost of a car, the monthly payment, and insurance. That's something we always have to talk about. Those costs are through the roof. So what you're looking at is someone basically eating ramen, even though they make $100,000 a year because for a place to live and a vehicle. So it's
Yeah, I mean, we're not government policy experts here, like, but that's something we got to figure out how to fix as a society, right? Because
Right.
the answer is, and I'll just step into my little controversial wading pool here. Scott, you can decide to stay out or not. The answer is not to continue making housing cheaper, like less cheap construction, less quality, let's build it cheaper. That doesn't fix the problem. Like, yes, it makes homes available to people who otherwise wouldn't have a home, but that doesn't, it's like the drug that just takes away the symptoms, right? It's not the long-term fix to the issue of why they can't afford the house now when, like, 30, 40 years ago, their parents could easily afford a house. Is that a fair statement without waiting, So I don't know, like, I mean, continue. I'll get myself into trouble if I talk about that too much.
No, all these factors kind of come together. They're converging here to show that, if you think about the fact that there's something like, I'm going to do the numbers in my head a little bit. Let's just figure there's 130 times 10. If you have about, say, 58 million households that camp, if you could take 10% of the non-camping households, or the people who are amenable to camping, but transportation is an issue, you're essentially able to add probably close between another, I'm going to say 8 million to your to camping.
And how many, we should run the math at some point. I don't know if it's possible to do in real time, but how many of those do you then need to fill a 150 site park? Like, not a lot.
No. So it's again, it's right there. It's accessible, to use that word. I mean, but because that's kind of what it's all about. This is an accessibility issue, and the solutions are there. We just have to be. We don't even have to be that creative, honestly.
No, but you do have to be a little bit creative. You do have to think outside. Do you have more data, or should we?
No, that's good. I think that's a good intro to it.
Like, you just have to pivot, and the problem I think I see with many campground and RV park owners and operators and management groups is this, we do have a built-in audience of millions of people who own RVs already. We have a built-in audience of millions of people, probably more than RVers, who have at one time or another within the last couple of years been a recurring tenter, backcountry or whatever else, right? Who own that equipment already. And then we have the people who are interested in some form of fashion, which is a smaller chunk, but growing, of I know exactly what glamping is and that it's for me or not for me or whatever else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this, I don't know that I've ever had a call in my 15 years with a client who has come to me and said, I want to do marketing, but I want to reach outside of that box. And it's not, to be clear, it's not their job to do that. That's my job to suggest that as the marketer, right? But I've never even heard the question pontificated or thought about, or like, I mean, I've heard the argument of I want to go after hotel guests or I don't want to go after hotel guests, and then the typical stereotypes that come along with hotel guests, which I think are unfair, as many as stereotypes are. But like, there's so many people out there. If you just were willing to look at your messaging and wording and how you talk to people and how you approach people and how you brand yourself, that you could encourage to have a love of the outdoors. Forget about forget about like, I want to make them buy an RV. That's not what your goal should be. You are not an RV dealer. You are a campground. You have a disproportionately large number of RV sites because that's the way, as we've talked about in the show before, the industry has gone. And those prior to the explosion of glamping a few years ago were the main core money makers at a typical RV park or campground. They more revenue than the tent sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like now it's different. Like now, whether it's a temporary softening of sales in RVs, whether it's more permanent, whether people are downsizing to smaller vans forever, whether that trend will reverse and go back, as many do, whatever that is, and whatever's coming, changing, modifying, in the future, like I think there's just this need for you to say, there are so many more people in this world who would love what I offer if I was able to reach them with my messaging. It's the same way with us, Scott, like with Insider Perks, right? I was having a conversation with my team earlier today, and I said, like, we're going full tilt on all this AI stuff. We're innovating. We're doing great marketing. But like, I don't do barely any sales, and I haven't for 15 years. Like almost none, other than me showing up at a trade show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we did, I mean, I bet you there's thousands of individual private campgrounds. I bet you there's 1,000. I'll say that. I think there's 13,000 private campgrounds in the U.S.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like
There's
that.
a lot.
I bet you there's at least 1,000 who, if I was able to just expose what we offered from an AI chat marketing perspective to them, would sign up within a month if they knew. And they have no concept of what Insider Perks is, because we've never been able to reach them, despite all the shows I have and all the LinkedIn presence and all the social media and all the, like, I think I've done a pretty good job of branding myself over the last 15 years, but like 90% of the industry has no idea who I am. Right. And so it's just reaching out to that. Like in my case, like we haven't had the time or maybe the resources or the impetus or the whatever to do that. And it's probably the same from a campground owner perspective, but you've got to be able to think outside that box and put yourself in the mind of other people and say, how do I reach them? How do I talk to them? Because they're not interested in an RV. Maybe never, but maybe at least not right now. They never even set foot in one. They don't even know what is, like, half of them don't even know what an RV is. When I came into the industry, I couldn't tell you the difference between a Class A. I still probably can't tell you the difference between a Class A, Class B, and Class C, because it's not my jam. I'm the campground side, right? Like I know one smaller, bigger, medium, whatever, but I can't tell you how they're certified or how they're called that, or like, obviously I know the difference between a motorhome and a not motorhome and a fifth wheel and not a fifth wheel, and a pop-up and things like that. But many of the consumers have no clue. They couldn't tell you what a fifth wheel is.
No, No, that's why when we do consumer research, we put pictures of the types of RVs in there for people to choose from. Even if they're a current owner, we have to do that. We can't use the description. We have to use a picture. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think we fall into this trap as not. I mean, I'm not an owner, but like we in the industry fall into this trap of like, I run a campground every single day. I see all these different rigs come in. I'm measuring them, looking at their sewer hookups, looking at their slide outs, looking at their dimensions, fitting them into my sites, figuring out what kind of hookups they do or don't need. Do they need propane? Do they not? Like all those kinds of intangibles. And so just like I see all the marketing and AI on my side, you see all the different trailer types and people on your side, and you just think like, well, how does that guy not know how many slide outs he does or doesn't have, which is easier, but how long his rig is? How is he saying it's 28 feet and 35 feet? How is he, right? And it's not something that they see on such a repetitive basis like you do, that it's always on the forefront of their mind. So, and that's the people who are already camping, right? But like reach out. So like we were running this on our meeting last week after the show, Scott. And one of the examples that AI spit out at us was like, well, reach out to a boutique hotel in your area. If you're close enough within the city, like you'd have to be within 30 miles of a city, I think, to do this. So not a Marriott, not a Hilton, not a whatever, a boutique local hotel. And certainly that's not to preclude you from going after those franchises, but I think it's a little bit harder to work with somebody like that. Certainly, Hilton and Marriott have partnerships with AutoCamp and Postcard and stuff like that, right? But I think like just reach out to those boutique hotels and say, look, we've seen what's happening in the glamping industry. We've seen larger companies like Marriott and Hilton partner with some of these bigger brands and offer their guests experiences, not to replace the hotel experience, but to supplement it, to augment it, to give them more of a choice to flip between different types of vacations as they go out. Are you interested in doing something like that with me? Now your park should match in some ways the audience of the boutique hotel that you're going after, right? So if you're a roadside RV park with no amenities that people pulling off the highway in and pull out in the morning, you don't approach the luxury boutique hotel and offer to do this thing, right?
Right.
So like you've got to match your amenities to do that. But you may very well be able to, I don't know. Well, you gotta have some kind of accommodations to do this, I guess, right?
Right.
Or be able to set up tents or whatever else. So not just the RV sites anyway, but like to approach these people and say like let's create a partnership. We can have branded weekends. We can do this in the shoulder season when I'm slower. We can, I don't know, label cabins after your different room types, or do some kind of co-branding partnership and say, like basically be part of the same rewards program even or something like that. And say, hey, like if you my glamping tents can be bookable on your hotel and your hotel rooms can be bookable on my booking engine. And I know that's counterintuitive, right? That sounds crazy. Why would, right? But you're not going to cross as much as you think. And the ability for you to grab on and latch on to the eyeballs that are arguably much bigger on a boutique hotel in a metropolitan area than are on your boutique little campground, which is the same thing as a boutique hotel, right? But the cross match there, like I feel like, and maybe there's data on this, maybe there isn't. I feel like you're going to pull way more people from the hotel and the hotel pulls from you. Is that right?
It depends on the audience, obviously, but
yeah,
I feel like there'd be a lot of cross-pollination there. I think it would be beneficial because you think about the person who is looking for a room, and then it's like, oh geez, look, we can stay in a cabin, and it's like it's the same price, and have more private. You know what I mean? Or the person who's, again, I feel like there's a lot of cross-pollination potential there, especially when, as you said, you're kind of going to have a similar type of guest that you're going to attract. You're not going to go way out of bounds with who's
Yeah.
the type of guest you're looking at. So yeah, it just makes sense, honestly.
And like if you're doing your, I'm going to intentionally use the word visibility instead of marketing because we'll get here in a little bit. But like if you're doing your visibility correct and you've got like a CRM that tracks all the guests and is aggregating all their data and you're doing your email marketing correctly, then you have assets to approach the hotel with and say, I've got these people segmented by area or by type or by how much they spend or by whatever. We can send emails out to these people and they will open them and they'll look at them and they'll read them and they'll see your hotel and all the offerings that you have. Maybe you bring out your catering team and they do an event for the weekend where we have, so there's just so much, and the exposure that you'll get to the people who had never ever thought about camping before on an email blast from that hotel or marketing on their website or putting it alongside their booking engine or whatever is, I don't know, massive, right?
Right. Again, your goal here is to grab more of those people who don't camp. I mean, that's kind of the topic here, but that's what you're going to do with that approach. You're going to get some of those people who normally wouldn't have any kind of outdoor experience to try it out. And yeah, that's just a win-win. Yeah, it's.
What else we got? What else did it spit out? So what was the second one that I liked? The bus into downtown. So we talked about like, all right, so we talked about the flying cars as an example when you get there, right? That's future. Today, hire a bus, rent a bus, and create some kind of a transportation package that says, we need to fill the bus or whatever. So like you do your marketing right, you do visibility right. We'll see how long it takes me to get used to that word. You do your visibility right, and you can attract enough people from the large metro area that you're nearby. Again, I think this works within like really 30 to 50 miles is your sweet spot, maybe a little bit longer. And you create some kind of a package, you blitz marketing, and you get 20 to 50 to 100 people that can pack onto a nice luxury type bus, right? Motor coach, with all the seating and the TVs and all that, right? And you rent one of those things, you send them downtown, just like they do at the KOA conventions for us or Ojai, or they can't be that expensive, right? And then you haul them all to your campground. You come pick them up at a central location in the downtown area. Meet us here for your camping getaway, just like a tour guide. They all pile onto the bus. You all take them to your park. They exit the bus and they all check into their cabins and they have a good weekend. You take them back on Sunday afternoon. Like this is, I mean, are the logistics easy? Of course not. If it was easy, everyone would already be doing it. But it's also not hard, is it, Scott?
I don't think so. I think it's an investment in time and some upfront resources, but all for long-term gain. I mean, when you're kind of looking at the future here, this is what it's all about. Getting people to your campground that normally wouldn't go there. You're offering them a great service. I think this is kind of what service and hospitality are all about. It's like giving people this type of an opportunity to have a great experience at your campground. It's like, go get them. This is, I keep thinking about this. Earlier you had mentioned on Fireside Chats about Earl from Black Folks Camp 2, who's, his big thing he always says is you're not going to sell outdoor gear to Black people by showing someone wearing a jacket. It's like they need to be invited. And, it's all about the invitation. And I think about that a lot because this is what we're talking about here. We're inviting, we're actively inviting people to show up. And sometimes it's subtle, but I think it's important, the distinction between active and passive and how
very few people are willing to go out and be active, right?
Right.
Because you think you have this built-in audience or you think you have whatever, which just means that pool is untapped for you, almost certainly, maybe 100% untapped for you in the area in which you are in. And like I think that's a good point from Earl, right? But also leads us into the visibility thing that we can briefly touch on too, and then flip back to some of these ideas. Does it sound okay with you?
Yep. Yep.
So like the visibility thing of like, we've talked so much on this show and so much on fireside chats about how you must have an experience at your campground to stand out or be different. Are you able to get by without an experience? Of course. Of course you are. Right? It's been easy the last 10, 15 years, arguably. It's getting a little bit more challenging now. Maybe that's less challenging based on what you said, Scott. I'm not sold that it's going to be less challenging in the next few years. I hope I'm wrong. But either way, like this idea that you can just put a bunch of cabins next to each other and attract the type of person who wants to have a real outdoor experience is not as flawless of a plan as you think it is. Now, that doesn't mean you're not offering a good experience in your cabin. They're nice cabins. You have a nice campground. You have a good staff. You have some decent amenities. There's definitely more appeal there than most hotels if you're matching the kind of persona to persona, right, of the type of person. So, but like, there's just the ability for you to do these small little tweaks, whether they're in activities or amenities or programming or planning or, whatever that may be, that you can do. Switch back to the camera, Jessica. That you can do. So I just think if you just put a little bit of thought into what the guest wants and is looking for in the camping experience, then I think that you could take it leaps and bounds ahead. And I think that's where many people get lost, right? Like I think this is what I see on a surface level. This is not saying most people, right? But a lot of campgrounds out there are still in the you build it and they will come. I just need to build RV sites. I just need to build some cabins. And then I just need to throw up some ads. And people just, if they know that I have the cabins there, they will just come book them. And that was the case for a long time. But is no longer the case. Because there's so many different options, so many different things. And now where your cabins were once something that was unique, now you've got competition with all the glamping sites that are popping up all over the place. And on the RV side, you've got the competition with all the Harvest Host stuff that's popping up that are not the same, right? And regardless of what you think of Harvest Host or don't think of Harvest Host, generally speaking, or Hip Camp, partners with people or properties that offer experiences. Is that always the thing that people should go after? That type of experience on Hip Camp or Harvest Host? Of course not. But like, what is your experience at your property? You can't tell me your experience is like just coming and checking into your cabin and sitting there on the front porch and looking at other RVs and cars drive along a gravel road all day. And then also I have a state park and a waterfall nearby and a couple hiking trails. So does the hotel, has everything like that, except that they don't have to look at the cars drive by, which may or may not be a good thing. And you can say like, there are benefits like community. Well, not everybody wants community. Not everybody wants to meet Bob next door and figure out what Bob does for, like, some people do. And there should be perhaps more of an impetus or a push towards community because there is value in that. And I think camping and outdoor hospitality does that very well. But I don't think that's enough. Is it, Scott?
No, it takes the person being able to find the experience that they want. And the community stuff, I think it's important. I think it's an important part of the camping experience. And I think it's a reason many people do it. They like staying at campgrounds where there's other people because they like that. But there's a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people who aren't really into that. So it needs to be acknowledged at some level. Whether you have, your sites segregated a little bit or whatever, based on that. But
like, I think the biggest challenge with a lot of parks is we talk about brand, and brand is everything in the future. Don't let what I'm talking about confuse you. Like, everything's brand. Your experience is your brand. How you portray yourself is your brand. Marketing is not your brand. Marketing is the way you present your brand. Visibility is the way you present your brand. It's not your brand. Your brand is everything. And I think a lot of the reasons a lot of the parks that we talk to have problems with, like, what's my brand, is because they struggle to identify, well, like, what do you mean, what is my brand? I build a park, I have RV sites, that's my brand. No, it's not. I built a bunch of cabins in a row, that's my brand. No, it's not. But I have a store. It's not a brand. A miniature golf course, a swimming pool, like a couple themed weekends, that's not a brand. Right? You have to explain to people the brand is the story of what you are, who you're for, why you're there. Right? And why you're there is not just, I have a bunch of gravel parking lots with pads and some furniture on them that you can pull into. Like, maybe that's why you're there, right? And there is an audience for that. But if you're going to attempt to do what we're talking about, which is go into the cities and reach the people who have never, those people, like, I don't know, unless you have a 12-month long drip campaign aimed at getting them to purchase an RV so that they are capable of coming to your RV sites, right? Maybe that's a thing. It depends on how good your patience is. But you're going to have some type of accommodation. And to do that, you have to have a story. You have to tell them why. Not only explain to them the benefit of camping and how to do it and how not to be nervous and how to embrace it and how to get transportation there and all those kinds of things, right? But you've got to be able to say, this is the why. This is why you want to come here. Because you can't do what I offer somewhere else, whether that's a wood-fired hot tub or a wood-fired sauna or a secluded glamping experience or a quaint little retro trailer or, right? Whatever that is. I don't know. What are some ideas you've seen, Scott?
From what I've seen, the people who are most successful are the ones who are tapping into the kind of the trendy travel trends. They're offering, like, there's a lot of wellness stuff going on. People that are offering, this is a way to help improve your wellness. Kind of that whole self-improvement thing. I've seen some good success with stuff like that. And it's a good differentiator.
I want you to keep going in a second because this is important, right? Yep. But I want to just be very clear to our audience. You don't by default have a wellness program because you're outside and you're a campground. That doesn't qualify as a wellness program. Continue, Scott.
But, and the reason I bring this up too, because again, one, it can really be a differentiator. I was at a conference and we were talking about some of these trends, and one campground owner talked about how they had developed this whole series of wellness activities there, and they were knocking it out of the park, literally. But with the things they were talking about, very few people in the room were even aware of. And I think, that speaks to kind of what you were talking about, Brian, the idea of when you're looking at increasing your visibility, the way to do that is through this type of offering, that you can take something like a wellness program, or it could be a guided approach. It could be foraging. It could be, there's a lot of different things that you can do that are outdoorsy, tap into local expertise that you can now differentiate yourself. I would pick something that's good for your region too, that kind of differentiates you, that people from outside the region will be attracted to. They want to come there and have this kind of different experience. It could be food. You can come to Maine. I know campgrounds here in Maine that do lobster boils at their campgrounds. They're incredibly popular.
Partner with a foodie tour. Partner with a history tour.
Yeah.
They start and end at your campground. Like, they include, anyway, like, we could go on lists for this, right? This is, but it all goes back to brand and what you're quickly heading to. What you're already in some cases, but what you're quickly headed to is an era where marketing is, and I'm a marketing company, remember, as I'm telling you this, marketing is dead. Visibility is what matters. Are you the answer to as many questions as you can be? And are those answers and the way that you portray your brand and yourself on Google Maps, on your website, on whatever, to humans for now / AI agents, but in the future AI agents who are browsing your website is the way that you present yourself to those people telling your brand story correctly so that that AI or that person can understand, or the answers and the questions can understand and regurgitate and represent you in the same way that you want to be represented, right?
Hmm.
Like the days of, let's just call it what it is, the days of the endless bullshit of the marketing company trying to make you something that you're not, to try to trick people into staying with you, are over. Or on their deathbed, right? Maybe not over quite yet, but on their deathbed, of the idea that you can take a property, and I still remember, I won't name the property. There was a property in Florida that like was basically a gravel parking lot, right? Like one of those, not even a, I wouldn't even call it a campground, or even an art, like there's no grass between the sites. It's just one huge gravel thing where they pull in, and the RV sites are like 2 to 5 feet away from each other. There's no fire pits, there's no amenities, there's no, right? It's just a parking lot. Is all it is all it basically is. And man, I did marketing for this park for a while, to the extent that I could. It was a friend who ran the park, and like the only photos they sent me were like of a super tight shot of the front sign that had some grass around it. And then like the one site, there was like a tiny ruddy little, like not ruddy, like little stream that ran behind the park that was like, I don't know, maybe 2 inches deep or whatever. So they took one shot of like one of the RV sites that was backed up against that thing, and it went straight down like this. And that was the only photos I got. And we got people to the park, but then they got bad reviews.
Sure.
Because you're misrepresenting yourself. And so that's what I mean. Like, not now, most people aren't doing things like that, right? But you are doing things like obsessing over your call to actions and how your wording is and how your colors are on your website and how your photos are staged and how there's people and actors in them or not in them that aren't having the same experience someone might or might not have. Your cabins are 10-year-old pictures from when they were brand new. You're obsessed over like taking this creative and content and putting it onto social media, and then recognizing that social media organically doesn't want to give you the views because your content sucks. It does. Like the algorithms are smart enough. Like lots of really smart marketing people will back me up on this. Well, maybe not lots, but some will. Like if you put something onto organic social media and the algorithms don't show it to people, it sucks. It's not good. I don't care how long you spent on it. I don't care how much you paid for it. I don't care if I designed it or you designed it or some agency in New York designed it. If the algorithm thinks that people will not like it, the algorithm will not show it to people. The algorithm is almost never wrong. Your content sucks. And so then what most marketing agencies will do, or advertising agencies is more the better term of it, right? Or owners will be like, all right, well, I've got this content that's trying to sell a cabin or trying to, get people to purchase something, and the algorithm is not doing anything on organic social. So let me go make an ad out of that same copy and spend $1,000 to boost the post. Wow, I got like 2 million views. It's successful. It's not successful because you're showing it to 2 million people who never wanted to see it. The algorithm, if they wanted to see it, the algorithm would have found them organically. The reason you had to pay for it is because they didn't want to see it. And so is it possible that you might get a couple customers from that? Sure. Right? But that era of trying to create content that is not well done or well communicated or has any kind of substance behind it, of a brand, of a story, of a reason, of an anything besides buy, is already over on social media for the most part. People ignore a lot of this stuff. We've said for a long time Facebook is an ad network. And I believed that for a while, But like now we're flipping into an era where the algorithms are so smart that if you can create really good content, then the algorithms will take you where you need to go. Now, like that math problem of hiring somebody to create that level of content doesn't always make sense at an individual campground. But like if you think you're going to be able to trick these AI agents that are browsing on behalf of their humans into psychologically being brainwashed by the type of marketing, like it's just not going to happen. And so that's why I say marketing is dead. I think it's visibility. I think it's you provide humans and the AI agents with as much information as you possibly can on your website so they can digest what you really are, really and truly are, because they're going to know. And then like that information is disseminated and shown to the exact type of people who want to see it, the way that the algorithms work on social media now. And you'll still be able to purchase ads and throw money down the toilet, so to speak, right? If you don't have a good story or a good brand. But like you've got to come up with a story. You have to, like, if you just have a brand and you have a reason and you have a why and you're able to communicate that story effectively, you will get business. Because in this future, the AI and the algorithms will help you find your customer better than you ever could. Like you can sit there agonizing over what type of audience you select on a Facebook ad and what demographic and age range and location and radius and city and state and all the things. The AI knows that 100 million times better than you do already today. It will help you find your guests, but it is not going to help you find something that like you don't like. It's not going to, there's no audience for somebody. Nobody goes to ChatGPT or Google and says, I would just like to go to a generic campground. No one does. Will people book that campground because that's the expectation they have of most campgrounds, generally speaking? Even hotels, right? Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, of course they will. But like, at some point, the tide is going to turn. I don't know. Like what, I feel like I'm preaching and I'm maybe going in circles. Is what I'm saying making any sense? Or
no, I think that it does, because I mean, from my perspective, what you're trying to say is you have a story to tell it, but make sure it's authentic and engaging, and that is going to give you the visibility that you're seeking versus a generic marketing campaign where you tell people we have pull-through sites with full hookups and so on. It's like it's really getting, because as you alluded to, like with the gravel campground, your story has to and that's why I said authentic in here as well, because you're setting the expectations of the visit for the guest, and you want to get the guests that fit your model. You don't want guests who don't want your experience. I think that's part of what's going on too. It's like if the guest isn't really seeking what you're offering, you really don't want them, because they're not going to be happy. They're not going to come back and they're going to tell everybody what an awful experience it was. So
and you have a brand. Everybody has a brand, right? The guy in the parking lot in Florida had a brand. His brand was cheap as fuck campground.
Right. And this is what you're getting. And just tell them.
There are lots of people who will come in and give him money. But he wasn't even marketing to the cheapest fuck people. He was trying to be something he wasn't.
Right.
And like that's not a slight on his campground. It's just a different audience. That doesn't make him better or worse than the person with the pool and the $1 million water park. It just makes him different. And if you embrace your story and you tell that, like, people will come to you. The algorithms on social media will find you now. And what you're seeing is a very quick switch into what has been happening on social media for the last few years. The algorithms are in control of everything on social media. And now the algorithms of AI are going to be in control of everything on search. And you're not going to be able to trick people. You will be able to pay as much as you want to force your way into front of people, like, so you can get those inflated metrics and you can still report to your CEO that you had 2 billion impressions last year on the TV commercial on country music television that everybody fast forwarded through. But they look good on our report. It's all about business. It's always been about sales. It's always been about the conversion, right? And if you're if you're doing your advertising right, you can, in some sense, make that ROI really well. But if the creative doesn't work on organic social media, the creative is not going to convert on a paid ad. It's not. So like, think about your story, think about your brand, think about the video content you want to create, think about the money you want to invest, think about the blog posts you want to drive traffic to, think about the whatever. It needs to be something that clearly demonstrates value or interest or tells a story or communicates to the guest why they should visit your property, and then test it on organic and see how it does on organic social. If it doesn't do well on organic social, you should never run an ad.
I see this as an opportunity for campgrounds to do something that's a little bit more exciting too. It's like to go out there and really tell your story, as you say, your brand. Tell people about your brand. Tell them what you have. It's like in a much deeper dialogue. You know, this is offering you the opportunity to almost literally get in front of people and tell them your story and what you're about and what your brand is, instead of just, you know, again, the cookie cutter approach to marketing communications. It's like it's much more dynamic. It's like you said, it's organic. It flows. And to me, if I was doing that, believe me, I'd be out there putting out stuff, telling my story, big time, in terms of, you know, what I had and what people can experience. And so, you know, again, I think this is just it's a great opportunity to use these tools to your advantage.
And to be clear, like, I'm not looking at you, owner operator, who's watching this show, as like, this is your fault. In some, like, ultimately, the buck stops with you, just like everything at my business and my company is my fault, right? Whether you believe that or not, that's true. Sorry. But like, what we're talking about now is more of a greater problem of the marketing and advertising industry as a whole. And this need and this desire and this, I don't know, expectation that you're going to just deliver these numbers. How many people liked my Facebook page last month? How many people saw the ad? How many people watched it? How many click-throughs did I get? It's all vanity. And it's so hard to get people to focus on the sales. And even when you can get them to focus on the sales, then the intangibles of the brand, which is where we talked about this, we're rapidly headed to the brand everywhere. Like, you can tell them, I ChatGPT'd this question and look, we were an answer. But your answer is going to be different from 7 billion other people's answers on the planet, because everybody's answer is going to be personalized. So good luck tracking that. And when you tell the executive that and you say, like, listen, just trust me. We've got the brand out there. We've got the blog posts. We've got the story told. We've got the creative built. These things are working and we can track some of it. But like, some of it we can't. Some of it is I want to advertise on the school marching band, and I'm not going to know the parent who saw that on the parade route and was like, that's interesting. I'd like to go camping this weekend. There's no click. There's no call tracking. There's no tangible proof that banner worked. And next year when that banner's up for renewal and they want $600 and you're like, did it work? Well, like, you don't know that Sally, the mom, was along the parade route and she was like, shit, I'm going to call my friends. We're going to get together for a ladies book club weekend. We're going to go out. We came here and we rented like 10 cabins and we spent, I don't know, $6,000 to stay for 5 weeks. And you don't know that happened because of the banner. Now there has to be thought. There has to be like analysis. There has to be buyer personas and thought process, and to the point where you're like, it's likely or not likely that a Sally would be along the parade route, right, to see these kinds of things. So I'm not saying just throw money down a hole, but this is not going to be the fairy tale story that you've made up. I'm talking to you, marketing and advertising people. The fairy tale story that you guys have made up for the last 15, 20 years of your SEO is working this way because the numbers are big. It's not that. So I think a lot of this is on the marketing advertising people. Again, it goes back to the owner. You're the owner. You got ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT what questions to ask to make them prove, to make the marketing advertising people prove that what they're doing is actually the correct strategy. But like, I don't know. there's just a whole lot of this mess around, like, I'm going to do marketing and advertising the way that it proves that I'm the best marketer ever. I don't care. Like, so many, like, Google Ads people, Scott, like, will run Google Ads for campgrounds, and they will just target their brand name in search. Those people are already looking for the campground. But if you run a Google ad and you target the brand name of the campground, boy, does your data look good in the reports. Your conversion numbers are off the charts. And you look like the best marketing agency in the world. And I can't tell you how many marketing agencies do this and call it a Google ad strategy, and the owners don't even bother to ask, question, and they're just throwing money at the wall, and it looks good. So this is all going to get normalized. This is all going to get flattened by AI. You're not going to be able to trick AI like this anymore. You will continue to be able to be blindsided, brainwashed, and right? Yes, my marketing strategy is working. The person showed me the numbers. I know it is. Are you sure? That'll be around for a while. But like, in what numbers or what that looks like, I don't know.
It's going to take them a while to wean themselves off those metrics.
Well, it's going to take them even longer because the marketing people are obsessed with the metrics too. I'm obsessed with the metrics. I look at the data too, because that was the primary way that we had for X number of years to prove it. It was easy to put into a report. It made our lives easier. It made the owners' lives easier. And I'm not saying data doesn't have a place. Of course, data has a place, right? But like the story that you tell with the data, just like the impressions of the television commercial on country music television, they don't matter. What matters is how many people bought because they saw the commercial on country music television, not the 2 million impressions. Whether George saw it, didn't fast forward through it, didn't TiVo it. Is TiVo even still a thing? TiVo is such a great brand name. It rolls off the tongue. But like, didn't fast forward to it and actually booked. And I get it. It's the same thing with the commercial, right? The problem is the whole ecosystem, right? If you didn't have a website URL with a /coupon country music television that they actually went to their browser and typed in, or in modern days a QR code that had a tag attached to it, or a call tracking number, it was really, really hard to quantify that the television commercial worked. And so instead of saying to the executive, I don't know if it worked, your answer was 2 million impressions, because the executive doesn't want to hear, I don't know. They want a number, which is maybe not. And then it's a whole loop of like, right? Is it the marketing agency's fault? Yep. Is it the executive's fault? Yep. Is it the owner's fault? Yep. Is it, right? But the whole thing is brand. That's going to be a levelized playing field in the future. And I think you guys got to start to realize that it's just about visibility. And if you have a brand and you have a story and I keep saying this over and over again, but you need to get it home with you, right? Like, you all have a brand, you all have a story to tell, you all have a why. There's a reason you built your park. There's a type of audience you're trying to cater to. There's a reason it is a gravel parking lot or it has luxury amenities. There's a reason it has a water park or it has a wellness spa. Right? Tell it. Tell your story. And if you did the things right pre-marketing and you purchased a piece of land that was near a demographic that was studied and understood that there's enough people there to be interested in the wellness spa experience or the water park experience, if you did that lead up right, you hired a Scott or you hired a Greg, right? If you did that, then like all you have to do is tell your story. The algorithms will work. You don't need the bullshit. You only need the bullshit when you fucked up something else in the line. All right. Some data, Scott, something like, so I can just stop running my mouth. I feel like I'm very preachy today.
I've done some studies recently on advertising, and one of the things we talk a lot about is reach. What reaches people, and it's quite obvious that it used to be that the channels were much more broad. Like, people would mention several channel exposures to any kind of particular brand, any product type. But what I've seen, especially like the last probably 3 years, is how specific it is getting, how it takes a lot more variety in communications and ways of getting messages out there to have the same reach that in the past you could do with like 2 or 3.
What do you mean? What do you mean specifically? Give us an example.
That I'll just use something very traditional, like, say people you used to reach, 80-90% of their audience, of their prospects through TV and radio, maybe newspaper. I'll use very, very old analogies here.
That's okay.
Because I just don't want to give away any names.
Yeah, that's fine.
So whereas now it takes like 5 to 6 different channels to get that same reach, to get that 80-90% figure. So now it can be, it can be banner ads, it can be direct email, it can be, streaming, it could be, it could be YouTube, it could be, and then add social media in.
But my question is do you need that reach? Are you chasing the wrong metric?
Well,
are you chasing reach or are you chasing sales?
Well, and I was going to get to that, but the reach is kind of the first. It depends on where your brand is at in terms of maturity too. Like, do you need to establish a presence? Because kind of my point really is that it is only because the AI is going to do all this work for you, that it's going to go out there and find all these things for the individual, instead of it having that you have to rely on that person being on a Facebook page or seeing a video on YouTube, or it's like the AI is going to scan and it's going to find all that stuff for you, for the customer. I don't want to say you, but for your customer. So your reach is going to be by definition much larger because of this type of approach to visibility. And because, again, the reason I bring that up is because we're seeing it. We're just seeing it in the numbers that we have. It's like, again, one of the classic techniques in marketing research is turf analysis, which is total unduplicated reach and frequency. And that's kind of what you seek, is that 80% mark. And like I said, a few years ago, you could hit 80% with 3 channels. Now you're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8, even in some cases. I had someone recently where it was like 8 or 9 channels that it took them to get to that. And again, that's just indicative of how difficult it is and how expensive it can be, and why embracing a different approach is going to be much more beneficial, because it's hard. It's much harder now than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's harder because you're chasing a numbers game, and I don't know who your brand is or who you're talking about, or maybe you're talking about multiple brands or whatever else. I'm not, right? It doesn't matter. And again, you are correct that it does matter of the maturity of the brand and what stage you are in of the, I need to do, to raise awareness or whatever else. But like, I think chasing the numbers game is the wrong way to go, no matter what stage you're in. I think if you do your studying right and understand what your story is and who you're trying to talk to, it's not just like a TV was for however many years, newspaper was, radio was. It's not just well, I'll just put out a commercial and like hopefully X number of percentage of people are actually like listening who own an RV or want to go camping, or, I know some people won't, but like, it's just a spray and play approach, right? And that's not the way it works anymore. It hasn't for a long time. I mean, even despite the fact that people still continue to make TV commercials and continue to make radio commercials and continue to write. I think if you had 50% reach to an audience that was 10% the size of what you were trying to reach, but targeted correctly, you would be much more successful. But again, you're not like, I'm guessing, no matter what brand you're talking about, if they're going after tens of millions or billions of reach or impressions or whatever it is. And I don't know that they are, right? But like pretend they are. If that's what they're going after, then like I think they're just going after the wrong metric. I think they need to go back and understand who they're trying to reach, and maybe they do need to reach that many people. Maybe they need to, but they need to track it all. Are you actually tracking all the advertising you're doing and figuring out if it's leading to sales? Because sales is the ultimate thing. And I think if you dialed that back and figured out, like, maybe if I take some of that advertising money I'm spending to reach this number of impressions or digits or whatever that's going to impress the people I need to impress, and instead I focused on, I don't know, organic social, for example. Let's use that as a metric, right? And I spent, I don't know, 10% of what you were spending on organic social and the creative and the video to tell your story, to tell your brand, to communicate who you are, to, right? Then I think that that's going to resonate with a whole lot more people than reaching a number target is. But I don't know how to flip that.
Well,
Because the executives demand that from the marketers, and the marketers want to prove that to the executives, and it's a whole toxic.
It becomes difficult for the person on the front lines who's trying to figure out, well, what do I recommend? Do we know which messages actually kind of took hold? How do we determine that?
You track the sales.
Is
That's
the
the
channel?
answer.
Well, you have the sales figures, but what if you're putting out multiple different types of messaging?
Well, then you track the different messaging, right? Like one,
right. So you
like
have to track it at some level. You have to figure out which one is actually performing.
yeah. But so you track that, right? Like, I mean, even something as simple as a UTM code builder, Google it, like free. You can just build a UTM. If you have to put effort into it, every organic social media post could have a UTM tag if you have a link associated with it, right? Every QR code can have a UTM tag associated with it. They're all different. And then you can track, like, this is the sale that the ad came from on social media that used this word. Let me aggregate it and run it through AI and analyze it. Oh, 60% of the stuff that converted have this type of language. 40% had this, whatever else, right? There's ways to track all this stuff with call tracking numbers and things like that. People just don't want to do it, or don't have the budget to do it.
My question is, for example, that what about that person that has multiple exposures? Does the last exposure get all the credit?
I mean, it depends on how you're attributing in Google Analytics or in Google Ads or whatever platform you're running on, right? It depends on your attribution model. So you can set it to be last click, you can set it to be first click. Google Ads and maybe Analytics has something called data driven now. Google Ads does for sure, where you just kind of let their AI, like, it gives certain credit to certain channels, it spreads them apart based on what it can track, which is a much more holistic picture. But either way, like, you split it, even if you just split it equally among all the channels, which isn't correct either, right? This is all subjective. But let's say you run a TV commercial, you run a Facebook ad, you do an organic social post, and you send an email newsletter, and you get a conversion from one of those. Maybe you don't give the full conversion to the email because you think the person was in the demographic of the country music TV who is on your email list, who also follows you on social media. But maybe you give 25% of the credit. So you give a 1/4 of a conversion, right? So be conservative in your estimation, and then you still have an understanding of those things and if they work, and then you can narrow them down or only do 2 the next time or whatever else, right? There's ways that you can do it. It requires a lot of data science from people like you, Scott, to study this stuff. And there's not the time or patience usually or the budget to this stuff. They want to spend the money on the vanity numbers because the vanity numbers look good. And nobody wants to hear I'm not sure. Like, I think it worked because we studied the brand. We did the ideal customer profile. We did the audience persona. We did the market research. We heard from all the people about the language and words they wanted to hear. We put all that stuff on the website. We A/B tested it. Like, it's clear that sales are up, but we just don't have a clear trackable data mindset to show that that word change made the thing or made the difference. The executive doesn't want to hear that. They want to hear it worked. So I don't know. I mean, it's a whole vicious circle. So then the marketer is trapped in that funnel of, I have to prove my use case. So now I'm back to like, well, I just want to report on impressions because that's the only thing I can do. That's the only tool I have in my arsenal. If that's what they want to hear, I got to give them that, right?
Yeah, it's difficult. I feel like for the marketer right now, there's a change happening, obviously, and they're in a tough spot. As you know, you're a marketer, so
Yeah. Like, I mean, we are. And part of it is that to be clear, there's a lot of good marketing agencies who do a lot of good tracking, who do a lot of good analytics, who have been paying attention to the things I'm talking about for a number of years. Those are the things that are like now in danger of falling apart. For the people who've never done any of that, like they've been flying by the seat of their pants anyway. And that's where the onus is on the owner to like really drill down and ask your marketing team, like, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I had a company come out to my campground and film a drone video. I've put that drone video onto my website. I've put it on my social media, and I have put it as a YouTube ad on YouTube. I'd like to figure out how this stuff is working to my benefit so that I know, are they watching the video? How long are they watching the video? Are people converting from it? How do I do that? I have a marketing agency. Tell me what questions to ask so that I'm sure the marketing agency is delivering the results I want. And it'll go bloop, and then you just have to ask them the questions. And either the marketing agency will be like, yes, I already do that for you. Here's a report. Or the marketing agency will be like, I don't think we can track that. And then you can go to ChatGPT and say, can the marketing agency track this? And ChatGPT will be like, yep. And then you'll know that your marketing agency is full of shit. Right? Or you'll teach your marketing agency something. Maybe they're just good and don't know that thing yet, right? Which is possible. There's lots of things to learn. But like you have the tools at your disposal now. And you've got to start understanding that like there's so much money being wasted in marketing. Maybe not from campgrounds or small businesses perspective so much. But there's just so, like, I was watching a Gary Vaynerchuk video the other day where he was talking about, he was just using an example. I think he was using, I don't know, I think he made up Doritos or Dr. Pepper or something, like not a real thing that he works with. He's just pulling numbers out of the air, made up a brand in one of his keynotes. And he's like, they would rather spend $500,000 a year on organic social media, which is like, their budget for total marketing globally worldwide for Dr. Pepper might be $100 million. They only want to spend $500,000 on the creative for social media. But next week they'll spend $900,000 on a party at a New York City nightclub. Right? Like that's the problem. That's the problem, is you're spending the $15,000 a month on a PR agency instead of on organic social. Or you're spending the $3,000 a month on Google ads that can't be tracked, that you just assume is working. Or insert blank. You have to be able to show the ROI. If you can't show the ROI, which you will very shortly not be able to in many different places, the same way you can today, you still be able to show it in the same way you can today, then you better have a damn good reason as a marketing company. I better have a damn good reason to you as to not only why I can't, but why I am sure as much as I can be that banner and the campground marching band is going to reach Sally and she's going to book 10 people because I've studied the ideal customer profile and the psychology and done the market research. And look, here's all the reports that say this is what Sally and June and everybody else wants to see on the banner that rides by them, that says whatever, right? And I can do all that with AI. So maybe I don't have the actual chain of process, but look at all this shit that says like Sally for sure is going to respond to this. I've done my fucking homework. And so many people don't want to do their homework anymore. Do your fucking homework. And if you do your fucking homework, you can tell the story to the executive, and the executive, because most executives are really smart people. That's how they became executives, right? They may not understand your whole side of the marketing, but that's your job. Is to communicate that to them in a way that they will understand and value. And there's going to be pushback. There's going to be, right? But if you're doing your job right and you're doing your fucking homework and you take that story to them and you lay it out to them in a way, which by the way, you can do in ChatGPT, I have a presentation to the executive tomorrow. I have all this data, and I know this is going to be the pushback from them and what they're going to tell me, and that they want data, and I'd like to report impressions, and I have those numbers, but I know it's completely bullshit. So help me understand how to convince the executive that this is what they should really be paying attention to. Right? Like this is it's not easy, but it's not hard either. It's not easy to figure out how to send the bus to downtown to pick up the people, but it's not hard either. It depends on what you want to do with your business and where you want to take it, and whether you want to future-proof it or you just want to limp along and hope that suddenly, I don't know, the campground market turns around or goes up or goes down or goes back to COVID levels or whatever else, or RVs start suddenly flying off the shelves. You're like, great, I don't have to pivot. You can hope for that, and maybe that future will come back, and maybe we'll all be wrong, or I'll be wrong, right? But I have a hunch that if you truly want to be successful in the vertical that you're in, that you got to do your fucking homework. What do you think, Scott?
I will second that. And you also got to measure and analyze. Keep, looking at the sales. For example, the whole idea of impressions. If impressions, ends up being a bullshit measure, well, let's show that impressions went down, but sales went up. That's great. That means our marketing is much more efficient. We're doing great. We're doing better. What we're doing is working.
Well, that's the interplay of the story, right?
Right.
It's the same reason as my conversion percentage went down on my website. Well, my visitors are up, but my conversions are down. Well, where are you getting your visitors from? Are you targeting people who like erotic adult toys in India by accident? Well, that's your traffic's up, but your conversions are down because they're not looking for camping.
Right. You're just right. Again, you're just, as you said earlier, it's the spray and pray. You're just trying to bring people in so that metric makes you look good. But the bottom line is, as you said earlier a bunch of times, it's sales. Are people showing up at the campground to stay? And who are those people who are showing up? And again, that's part of doing your due diligence and your analytics, figuring out who these people are, making sure, over time that what you're doing is working to get the people you want to show up as well. And that's part of, this is part of that whole process. But it sounds like, this is all about just being more efficient and better about what we do. But you still have to ask the right questions, and you still have to,
efficient is a dangerous word because efficiency tends to lead toward skipping things sometimes for some people, right? But otherwise, you're 100% spot on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think I was partially done. Whenever someone talks about that, I always think of, and this may or may not be true, but I like it, that Steve Jobs once said that if he has a problem that needs to be solved, he would take like the laziest person in the department and assign it to him, because he knew that they would find all the shortcuts and get it done the quickest. So that may or may not be true, but it's a good anecdote. But yeah, there's efficiencies. But the idea is just being better at what you do. It's better if you're getting more sales with fewer quote impressions, then great. It's great. It's great for everyone. It means you're doing your job. It means you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, just and ultimately, like, stay in your lane as a campground or a small business owner. Understand what you can and can't do with your budget. You can't buy a Super Bowl commercial. If you could, and everybody would do it, right? Then it wouldn't be a special. But like, this is the same thing. It's. I'm just using social media as an example, right? As one of many things. But again, like, if you're not willing to invest the effort into the creative on social media that will succeed organically, which is very expensive to do correctly, it costs a lot of money to do, because you've got to hire the right human talent that are not available as work campers behind your front desk that just aren't doing anything that you want to throw something at to fill 2 hours of their day. If you can put the budget into that stuff, you can do really good things on social media, right? And the flip side of that is if you have a property that is really beautiful and really exceptional and really amazing to look at and unique with accommodations or landscaping, or if you've done that experience really well, then the algorithm sometimes, many times, like will just find the people for you because it sees the beautiful things, and like you don't have to. And then the creative can speak for itself, especially in outdoor hospitality with all the beautiful properties we have, right? But again, that assumes you started with the experience first. What we're mostly talking about is the people who haven't need to pivot and tell a brand story, whatever else. Let's spend 5 minutes going through some of this stuff because we promised Scott that we would. I don't know
Okay.
if any of this stuff is good. So we asked for some other articles or ideas from AI. Air and rail travel pipelines, overnight train and tent pass with Amtrak and Via Rail. Bundle rail sleepers that arrive within 150 miles plus tent or tiny cabins and a free shuttle. Not a bad idea.
No.
Regional airline layover retreats sell 24-hour nature layover packages to flyers with 6 to 20-hour layovers at your nearest airport. Frequent flyer mileage cash-in. Partner with one airline's Miles for Merch portal so members can redeem points for your weekend packages. Empty leg private jet pairings. I think that depends on if you're like a luxury resort in this case, but list your highest end glamp sites on empty leg jet aggregators. Train station gear closet. Rent a locker set inside the closest rail hub stocked with pre-reserved camping kits labeled per guest. Hospitality and lodging cross pollution. Luxury hotel double stay certificates. Top tier hotel guests get 2-night certificates for your glamp tents. You reciprocate with a referral fee. There you go.
Yeah. Simple, perfect.
Yeah. Airport hotel overflow valve. When a nearby airport hotel sells out, its booking engine offers your ready-to-sleep cabins at parity price plus a shuttle. Timeshare.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Timeshare nature excursion credits. Sell 3-day passes to resort timeshare owners as an add-on when they attend their sales presentations. Cruise line pre-post sale packages appear in cruise line excursion catalogs for passengers flying into port a day early or staying after. Bed and breakfast overflow dare. B&B emails waitlisted guests a playful dare to camp upgrade. Cabins with breakfast basket delivered. There you go. I bet you there's a bunch of local people who would be willing to curate a bed and breakfast experience at your property.
Absolutely.
Corporate and workplace channels, Fortune 500 meeting light offsites. Supply corporations with pre-packed 50-seat outdoor boardroom kits. On-site childcare for remote teams. Wellness days voucher and employee benefit platforms. There you go.
There's so many companies are doing this kind of thing with the wellness vouchers. It's like it's a great benefit.
Executive coaching firms Nature Sprint venue. Bundle executive coach day rate plus your cabins into an intensive 48-hour retreat. Professional Association CEU credits outdoors. Host accredited legal, medical, accounting, continuing education days under a canopy. Health recovery and lifestyle medicine. Health insurer Nature RX reimbursement. Insurers reimburse policyholders for your stress reduction stays. Oncology recovery lodges. IV therapy pop-up weekends. Sleep research paid participant stays. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Corporate burnout sabbaticals.
Yeah.
Retail and subscription ecosystems. Peloton off bike week passport. Peloton offers members credit for outdoor wellness. You host curated classes off-grid. High-end luggage brands trial pass. Include a camp voucher inside every $600 suitcase sold for 6 months. Meal kit company outdoor edition. HelloFresh Blue Apron. Ship boxes directly to your guest sites. You waive cooking gear fee. Credit card reward catalog placement. Wine Club Harvest Camp. Higher ed and youth pathways. University Bridge Week micro semesters. Freshman orientation. MOOC field labs. Gap year scholarship stays. SAT GMAT boot camp and tents. ESL immersion camp and conversate language schools with foreign students in cabins for English immersion. Arts, culture, and media streaming show fanned weekends. There you go. Everybody's wondering what movie to show on their TV screen, right? Like just run a Facebook ad campaign targeting everybody who loves, I don't know, Game of Thrones. Maybe a current show, right? But just Game of Thrones. I'm thinking of that because there's Game of Thrones studios in Ireland, and I'm going there in September.
By the way, just that previous one on ESL, I
Mhm.
just wanted to throw out there that I know someone that's doing something similar to this out west, and what they're doing is recent immigrants. They're bringing them to campgrounds, and one of the things that they did was it was mostly for kids, but they have brought the parents in, and they're having them cook their like cultural foods like over a campfire, and having this kind of whole experience there. And they say it's just been spectacular result. Just everybody loves it.
This thing, like if you had a movie license, you'd have to get the rights to do the stuff right somehow. But the movie
Yeah.
license, at least, you could do something with that. Podcast recording residencies. Top
Well,
podcasters get a free week. Live from the woods episodes for sure. Photo editing app filter collaboration. Book launch nature tours. Indie film location exchange. Insurance, finance, and membership clubs. Auto insurer safe driver awards. Offer camping vouchers to policyholders with an accident-free streak. AAA CAA Urban Escape Pack. Credit union member dividends. Employee-sponsored foster family breaks. Mobility and convenience. Rental car counter upsell. Travelers booking SUVs at the airport get a flyer. Why drive back to a hotel? Keep the SUV and camp by a lake. There you go. Rideshare audio ads. Amazon locker pickup on property. Luggage forwarding integration. Pop-up Hertz on-site day rentals. Affinity and cause marketing. National Park Foundation donation match. For every first-time camper booking, you donate $5. Foundation blasts promo to its email list. City alumni reunion by the campfire. Diversity and outdoors grant program. Corporate plant a tree offsite KPI tie-in. There you go. Plant trees. Pet
Perfect.
adoption agencies, first camp trip, military and diplomat home leave partnership. That's 50 ideas. We could probably have ChatGPT come up with 250,000 more if we just kept prompting and prompting and prompting, prompting. It's not hard, guys. It's hard to implement this stuff, but it's not impossible. So all you got to do is think about that stuff
I would.
and figure out
I mean,
unique ways.
me, I'd review the list. I'd pick one, like really fairly simple one, and just try it out. Just see what happens. It's like some of those are pretty simple to implement. They're pretty, get the low hanging fruit, see how it goes, and that may lead to more. You'll get feedback from it, and again, differentiate yourself, enhance your brand.
All right. Well, other than my rants, do we have a good show?
I think so. I think we've been building on this idea of kind of campground of the future combined with future opportunity. Future and existing. What can people do now? All that stuff is stuff they can do now. But it's going to help build toward that campground of the future stuff that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, to the owners, to the executives, hold your people accountable and hold yourself accountable to understand. Go to ChatGPT yourself and say, what should really I be asking and paying attention to? What should I be requesting? What should I be, having the marketing company deliver to me? The onus is on you, and then the marketing and advertising agencies, the onus is on you to convince it's a whole circle. We just need one person to start this, guys. In your little circle of agency relationship with campground owner or RV park owner, glamping resort owner, or executive with multi-park group or whatever, it's your job to start this conversation. If you're not starting the conversation, you're at fault too. But ultimately, it lays at the owner executive's feet if you're the one in charge. Do you want to keep clinging to these vanity numbers? Do you want to keep forcing marketing agencies to deliver you things that don't matter to your bottom line? Or do you want to demand better? And if you want to demand better, then it's got to start with brand, and it's got to start with story, and it's got to start with identity and who you are. And that is overlooked so much in this industry. And it is going to be the fucking thing that sets you apart. Because AI is going to notice all of it. And it's going to be the tiny thing that makes them pick the other property instead of you. That's all we got for Outwired today. Thanks, Scott. Any final thoughts?
No, just if anyone does any of this stuff, let us know if you want to try it or you want to talk further, because I think it would be really interesting. It'd be a great follow-up for us too. So we'd love to hear from you.
I want to do a sleep study on whether they sleep better at campgrounds.
We should.
All right. See you next week on Outwired, guys. Peace.
All right.